This is the location of the fuel pump cover. You want to go ahead and take your carpet, fold it off to the side, make sure you have plenty of room. I'm a little cramped. I have my system and everything in there, but still plenty enough room to do everything. You'll want to get down and take all four of these out, but before you can do that, you got your you got two Phillips head screws here holding this cover on that overlaps this. Go ahead and take those out. They can be a little tough, but you can get them out. And then you have these four that are your standard 10mm metric socket that'll come out. Alright, after you've taken the cover off for the fuel pump, go ahead and put some rags down in these slots, because whenever you take off these fuel lines, as I have this one here done already, you're going to have fuel come out, potentially a lot, potentially a little bit. I haven't ran the engine in a while, so I didn't have a lot come out this time, so just keep that in mind whenever you start pulling the fuel lines off. After you pull the fuel lines, we'll go ahead and take all the hardware out and go ahead and pull this cover. Okay, I've pulled this last fuel line. As you see, you got a little bit of fuel sitting there. It's not too much, it's not too bad. Now we need to pull these, it looks like 6 8mm bolts that go through the top of this that mount into your tank. After that, well, then we should be able to lift everything out as one unit. Okay, now that we have all the screws out, we'll go ahead and pull this out. And I got my fuel mat over here so my car doesn't smell like fuel the whole time. And you gotta be careful for the float. Just put this down. Alright, and there it is, and it's out. Whenever you pull it out, this is going to be cocked in there, and you're going to catch on the lip right here. But just will be a little bit careful with it and bend it in. It's pretty flexible. So once you bend it in and work around the filter bag and everything also, it'll just come right out. Alright, now that we have the fuel pump out and I got it on my workbench, it's good to have a nice clear workbench to work on. We'll go ahead and I guess first start with these two connectors right here that go up to the plugs in the top of the canister lid. And then once we disconnect those two, we'll work from there. Okay, now that we have these two wires disconnected, it was just these small screws that held it in. We can go ahead and move on to bigger and better stuff. Carefully flip this over and use our needle-nose pliers to pop this short fuel hose. Actually, we can cut this zip tie, maybe make things a bit easier. Let's see if I can slide this pump out. There we go. Got the little rubber grommet and your filter bag. Now that we got that off, maybe it'll be a little bit easier to get this off. Slide that up. and should be able to slide the fuel pump off. There we go, and that's it. That's the OEM Nissan fuel pump. And it went rather easy, weeping a little bit of fuel around, but it'll be alright. Okay, what we have here is the high volume fuel pump from ISIS. I ordered it just the other day off of JinjukuRacing.com. We'll go ahead and get this install done, and hopefully everything goes rather smoothly. We got our fuel filter bag there for the pump itself. We got the pump considerably smaller, but actually does a lot more work than the big factory one we got over there. Just for comparison, it's pretty small, but it does the job greatly. Alright, and we got our own grommet. That was to replace the factory one. We got a sleeve. They included an extra fuel hose for us to replace, instead of using the old factory one, hose clamps, and a nice neat wiring harness that we can use. Okay, so we got all our parts laid out right here, and you're going to notice some differences between the two pumps. Whenever you pull the stock pump out, you're going to have a port here with a little nipple, and this little brown hose is going to be hooked up. It's got a filter on there, and it's going to be hooked up like that. You got a little clip right here. For me, it just pulled off like that. I set it off to the side, and but other than that, really the systems are the same. The replacement pump that we have here does not have that port. As you see, it only has one port, which is the main port for the it has the blue cap on it, and then of course your electrical connector. Other than that, that's it. Very basic. So that the brown tubing you don't need to worry about, because it's not going back in there. So just one less thing to fall in your tank. But now that we have this pump, let's go ahead and remove these caps. That's the bottom setup, and then here's the top. First off, you're going to need to take the rubber grommet that's given to us, and it's got the same configuration on the bottom, or somewhat the same configuration on the bottom as the stock one. It will work. We'll go ahead and slide that onto the bottom here. Oops. Making sure to match up the little plastic stud on the bottom and your port for your filter bag, which is right here. Once you do that, it should look like this, and then you can go ahead and proceed with the filter bag. Inside the little parts bag that the filter bag comes in, you're going to find a little washer, a star washer. Basically, it's pretty simple. You take it and you slide it over that little stud, and you'll notice that one side of the star washer is protruding or convex and the other side is concave. You'll take the concave part and just go ahead and slide it over that way whenever you slide it on there, it locks in place and it won't come off for nothing unless you pretty much cut it off with a pair of diagonal cutters. Go ahead and push that on there. It fits nice and snug. And take your star washer and drop that on there. It's kind of a tight fit. I got big fingers, so and just use a pair of needle nose pliers. Well, that didn't work out too good, so try to situate it on there as evenly as possible. Actually, there's a little bit better trick that works just about every time. You can take a socket about the size of that washer and just set it on top of there and just push down and try to put even pressure on the washer. And sometimes you need to coax it a little bit. Okay. Once you get it on there, it should look a little bit like that. This filter bag's not going to go anywhere afterwards. So yeah, once you get that all set up, we're ready to move on to this. We got everything sitting right here now, and I'm left with this plastic. It's like a foam sleeve that slides onto the pump itself. I'm gonna slide it on there. I'm gonna do that now. And you got all this excess that's sitting up here. So I'm just gonna take a straight razor and trim it a little bit. Alright. There we go, that looks a lot better. I'm gonna take our tubing here, and hopefully it's a little bit forgiving. Let's see if I slide it on there. Alright. I'm probably going to trim this a little bit, see if we can keep from having to slide it on there so much. So about an inch. I trimmed about an inch off of there. You got plenty of excess on here to get a good fit onto this tubing that comes right here. Before we slide it on there though, we need to grab our hose clamps and just slide one down on top of it. Slide this on there. Right. Now that we have the pumps on there and the hose is connected, it's a nice sturdy hose, should last just as long as the last one. We can go ahead and start with the wiring aspect of everything. As you can see here, this wire goes right here, and this wire goes right here, and they correspond with a yellow or a white and purple, white wire with purple stripe, and then I should have a blue wire with a red stripe. Wiring harness that came with the ISIS kit, it already has terminals on there. for shovel connectors. Really up to you if you want to use these. I'm probably not. I'm probably going to cut those off and solder this together. Alright, now that I've trimmed up the wires some, because I just don't like all that excess wire sitting in there. But now that we've trimmed it and I have soldered it, I soldered both wires. The black goes to the black inside the tank and the red goes to the brown inside the tank. The brown, I can tell you, goes to a purple or a white wire with purple stripe that goes to this harness and leads out to this plug, and the black goes to a blue wire with red stripe. Once again, it leads out to this plug. It goes out to the stock wiring for the 1989 Nissan 240SX, and obviously the red to brown, and then it turns into the white with purple stripe is your power wire coming from your fuel pump relay. See if I can show you all this. I just looked up in it's EF and EC 120 out of the FSM. If you want to look it up for yourself, I traced all the wires and everything like that and made sure I had everything hooked up correct. I went ahead and zip tied the pump around the frame. That way it's a little bit more secure. It's pretty sturdy without it, but I just want to make sure that everything's nice and secure. And now that we have all that configured, we should be ready to go ahead and slide her back into the fuel tank. Okay, now that we're back to our fuel tank and everything, we can take a look in here and you'll see that bowl right there. That's where your fuel pump sits into, and then you got your baffles and everything like that. And it's very important to get your fuel pump aligned correctly the way that it was factory. That way everything fits correctly. This big O-ring to seal everything off. If it gives you problems, just go ahead and you can take some petrolatum and lube that, and it'll actually help it stick in place a little bit better, and you don't have to worry about it falling into the hole. Screws are in, it's mounted nice and tight, and then I went ahead and slid the fuel lines on and put their clamps back on. Make sure you slide them up as far as they can go, and be kind of gentle with them. They are, after all, 20 years old or so.